a lot of the things he said were the things that you suggested he should say before the speech. What is it that you found unacceptable to you as someone in the president's base?
All I'm saying is there's nothing here that, if you look at infrastructure,
which he barely touched.
He barely touched infrastructure. He talks about AIDS. Look, I helped write the global AIDS proposal in PEPFAR, so all in. But that was not something conservatives are going to be cheering about tomorrow. So I'm just saying that if you look at what the president, the concrete proposals he put forward, there is not a lot of conservative. There's a lot of outreach to the anti-Pelosi Democrats.
I see it very, very differently. I saw this as a psychotically incoherent speech with cookies and dog poop. He tries to put together in the same speech these warm, kind things about humanitarianism and caring about children. At the same time, he is demonizing people who are immigrants in a way that was appalling.
Demonizing child trafficking.
Hold on a second. There were people in that gallery who were children who had been torn away from their mothers at the border. He did not mention them. There were soldiers who were transgender who have been thrown out of the military. He didn't mention them. There are people there are veterans. He's talking about veterans. There are veterans who he has thrown out of this country who are dreamers. He did not mention them, and he didn't say one positive thing. Listen. If you want to talk about the people he could have mentioned,
so he's not mentioning is a bad speech. He's supposed to mention everybody you want him to mention.
Listen. If you're going to talk about immigration, you're going to talk about undocumented people. Then talk
and
about
make his case.
No, hold on a second. Then talk about the one who drowned saving people in Houston after the storm. Talk about the people who have given their lives to this country. You guys see this very differently. You're looking at it from the point of view of...
I got to just toss to Wolf because we have to set up the Democratic response. But we'll come back. We'll continue this discussion. It's an important one. Van, what was the quote you said earlier? This was a psychotically...
psychotically incoherent speech that mixed cookies with dog poop. Is that what you mean?
That's the one, yeah.
Would you steal that from me?
I can't tell you how hurt it is, how hurt people feel. I know that for some people, immigration is just an issue. You know, it's like, well, this is good for the base, or it's this policy thing, or somebody made a vote. You have people living in real fear on a daily basis in this country, and they feel the President of the United States is licensing a kind of hatred against them. Everybody's algorithm shows them something different in their feed. I'm always seeing these videos of people going into Walmart and people yelling at them and saying, get out of the country, in front of their children, and abusing them because they feel that they've been licensed now to do that. And so for me, I wanted to just talk about criminal justice reform because we worked so hard, and I saw a different Trump when he was talking about that. And I watched Donald Trump personally move on that issue over a 6-month period of time. I saw the impact on Donald Trump of seeing Miss Alice Johnson come home. He talks about that video of her running across the street and hugging her children. Every time I talk to him, I know that side of him. And for him to go directly from that into, again, attacking the immigrants, for me, it was just heartbreaking. And it causes real pain for real people. And I don't want us to treat this outside of the humanity of other parts of the speech. Don't tell me people coming home from prison are good people. People coming home from prison, I can give you a second chance. I see your humanity. And then turn right around and snatch babies from mama at the border and not say a mumbling word. And snatch paychecks from furloughed workers and not say a mumbling word. That part, that's what I was trying to put. These two things that don't go together were together in that speech. And I think it was unfortunate.
Van, any immigration compromise here should extend the right of DACA, either to resolve DACA and extend TPS. That has to be a part of this. There's one other thing. Everybody keeps talking about the wall. The problem that we're facing with many of these things are located in these countries that are our neighbors. And we're not doing enough to help them to solve their problem, whether it's economic aid or security aid. But I believe that the DACA folks, that should be done. And it should be part of this deal. TPS, I don't know how you figure all that out, but we don't want these people living under fear every day that they're going to have to leave.
Senator Santorum on DACA.
Look, I think there's a compromise that will include some element of DACA, some element of these TPA folks.
The thrill in your voice, though, is...
Look, it's a compromise. I don't know too many people who get thrilled when you compromise, but you do it.
You think he will?
And that's the whole idea. You need to do it, and I think the president will do it. But Van, to suggest that when the president and Republicans and conservatives care about the security of our border, care about people coming into this country and committing crimes, as we saw pointed out by the three women in the audience whose grandparents were killed, those are real issues too. That's real pain too. That's real fear too. There are people who are afraid and have a reason to be afraid because their neighborhoods aren't safe.
But you
because
talk about
there are people here doing things that are harmful.
Senator,
and so the idea that you throw a few videos that some people are afraid because you have an idiot at Walmart yelling at somebody, and I would agree, it's an idiot. It could be 100. It's wrong. I condemn it. The president will condemn it.
No,
but
he
what
hasn't.
Senator,
let me.
You think the president would not condemn someone?
This is happening.
What do you mean
across,
he hasn't?
It's happening across the country. People with MAGA hats on, unfortunately, doing this. You talk about it differently. Listen, you have a similar politics of the head with Donald Trump, but a different politics of the heart. I don't hear you saying the kinds of things about people that he does. I disagree with you on policy, but I can understand where you're coming from. The way the president talks about it causes people to feel that people who are here undocumented are less than, and that's wrong. And I think your faith and my faith prohibits that.
All I would say is I would agree with you that the president's rhetoric at times is incendiary and at times can give a bad impression of what the president's policies are. And John goes crazy when he does it. I go crazy when he does it. But the reality is what the president's put out there on immigration is a reasonable proposal. And I'm hopeful.
You mean tonight? You're talking about tonight?
What he talked about.
Let me ask you a question. This story has surfaced in the last few days about the fact that the president himself has, as a policy in his business, hired undocumented workers in all of his, at many of his properties. And so,
and that goes back to the building of Trump Tower.
Now, he obviously doesn't feel like he's subjecting his guests to the threat of violence. He hires them probably because he thinks they're good workers. So how do you square all of that? And isn't that a political problem for him?
I would agree that it's a political problem, and it goes to the point that I was making earlier, which is Republicans don't mind illegal immigration because it provides a supply of workforce that may be a lot cheaper than what you would get otherwise. And that's why we have E-Verify. And I know the Trump organization now is going to use E-Verify, but they should have been using it from the beginning and should have set an example. And I do think it's a black eye for the president.